My name is Scott Sherman. I'm a Director of Talent Acquisition at Sodexo, and I'm next on the RecTech podcast.
Welcome to RecTech, the podcast where recruiting and technology intersect. Each month, you'll hear from vendors shaping the recruiting world, along with recruiters who'll tell you how they use technology to hire talent. Now, here's your host, the mad scientist of online recruiting, Chris Russell.
Let's do this. It's time for RecTech, the only podcast that helps employers and recruiters connect with more candidates through technology-inspired conversations. If you listen, you'll hear both recruiters and HR tech vendors talk about how they use technology to find talent. Today's episode of RecTech is sponsored by Job Fairing, the job fair search engine. Is your company hosting a hiring event or job fair soon? Well, Job Fairing will help you promote that event to a local audience in your city. Submitting your event is free, but they'll also help you advertise it on channels like Facebook if you choose to feature on the site for 10, 20, or 30 days at a time. It pays to advertise, so to ensure your hiring event is well attended, head over to jobfairing.com and get it listed. Now on to our guest, Scott Sherman. Welcome to RecTech. It's great to have you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So you've been in talent acquisition at Sodexo for a number of years now. How long have you been at Sodexo?
I just celebrated a 10-year milestone anniversary at Sodexo in November. So wow. 10 years. 10
years, yep. So what's new with you guys? What's new in TA? I think I just saw you brought on a new VP of talent acquisition.
Yep, that's what that is the big news at Sodexo today. So yeah. We are very excited to welcome our new VP of Talent Acquisition, Meher Hamji, and she comes to us from Accenture, where she was a global leader of diversity and inclusion in talent acquisition. She brings a strong background in executive search. She's worked for companies like Korn Ferry, Russell Reynolds, and really, I've been working with her for about a month now, and as my new boss, and she's wonderful. She brings a collaborative and strategic approach. I think that when you look at the successes that we've had over the last probably 12 years as a talent acquisition organization, she's the right mix to really help build upon that success and take us to the next level and really, take over at the helm. And we're really excited to work with her and embark on this new part of our journey.
That's pretty cool.
Talent acquisition.
Yeah. So, Scott, set the stage for us. How big is Sodexo in terms of number of employees? I'm also curious how big your hiring team is and number of hires you're expecting to do next year.
Absolutely. So I'll start globally. Globally, Sodexo has about 485,000 employees. We operate in 80 countries. We're about a $22 billion a year company globally.
Wow.
Our talent acquisition department that I'm a part of here in North America, we focus on the U.S. And our North American revenues are about $9 billion, about 125,000 employees, thousands of sites across the country. We work in just about every state. And our talent acquisition organization focuses on exempt staff and management and executive level positions only. Mm-hmm. And of those, we have probably about our full talent acquisition organization runs right about 100 employees, and we fill 6,000 plus positions a year.
Wow. All right. And we'll talk about how you do that. First, I want to ask you about, I've long known Sodexo from just an employer standpoint for at least 10 years. In my remembrances, you guys are one of the first companies I saw that was doing a lot in terms of being very proactive as a sort of recruiting marketer, right? I saw you were blogging early on. I think you started some really talent communities way back in the day. Could you just talk about that a bit in terms of how you guys started approaching all of that and where all that initiative came from and stuff?
One of the things that we recognized as a challenge for us early on is we're not a consumer company. A lot of listeners probably have never heard of Sodexo.
Yeah, tell them what you do.
Unless you're, pardon?
Tell them what you do.
So we are a major food service and facilities management company. We provide those services to universities, hospitals, corporations, government entities across the world. And you might see us in your university. You might see us at work running the either the facilities management, or the food services at the company, and they don't always associate that as Sodexo. If you're at your university and you see someone, maintaining the building, or, you go into one of the retail restaurants on a university or the dining halls, you associate those with the university employees, but a lot of times those are Sodexo or a competitor of ours. And so we're not out necessarily in front of the consumers, like, say, Starbucks or Pepsi or someone, some of the people that we've really kind of benchmarked against. And we noticed that we have to have a way to get to the candidates that would be interested in our jobs, that would be qualified and have great careers here. So we really saw blogging, creating communities, really having a lot of content that we could take to the talent pool as a way for us to do that, to get to build an attraction strategy, not being a consumer brand, being more of a business to business brand. So over time with that, what we did is, at the same time, this whole wave of social media was coming on, and we saw that as a huge opportunity. Here we have 60 to we've grown now. I think we have 80 plus recruiters, but we said, okay, well, in the past, you'd send recruiters would go to career events, they'd go to professional networking events, and here you have this in this virtual world where recruiters can do that. So we really advocated for our teams to become experts in social media, our teams to do guest blogging on our careers blog, to get their hiring managers involved and interview them for blogs, to really tell that story of who Sodexo is, and to do that daily, to share things on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. And I remember at the time, I was not a director when we started to do this. I was an executive recruiter, and I went to, who's now my colleague, Anthony Scarpino, and I said, hey, what can we share on this new stuff? And Anthony was really one of our leaders that spearheaded our whole employment branding initiative, and that's been his area since the beginning. And he said, well, you're a recruiter. You every day exercise your judgment. You know what to share with candidates, whether you're speaking at an event or talking to a candidate on one-on-one. Use that judgment. What do you think candidates are going to be interested in from the content we have, from what you're creating? And share it. That's how you're going to build your pool. That's how you're going to build your thought leadership out there in the world with candidates. And that was our approach, and that's still our approach today. I think the areas that we've evolved have been, going from just kind of getting the word out to now really having some strategy around it, understanding what's important to candidates, doing some surveys, what are their drivers, what's our employee value proposition, and how do those two marry, and how can we really tell our story more from kind of what's in it for a potential candidate versus now just getting the word out. It's much more driven by value proposition, candidate interests and focus, and really connecting those.
So what do candidates want to know, Scott? What are you pushing out there for them?
Well, one of the things we've really seen is through some of the surveys that we've done with candidates is they want career growth. They want to develop their skills. They want meaningful work. And from the people that where we've done kind of just our own surveys with candidates, and so we've found, well, we have these huge career ladders within Sodexo. If you're in a school, we really focus on the student experience and creating a great learning environment. If you're in a hospital, it's about the patient experience and wellness and health. If you're in a corporation, it's about creating a great work environment where you can be productive and have good work-life balance. And so all of those things really kind of are opportunities for us to create a meaningful work environment for our candidates. And so those are the things that we've found, is that career growth, getting that training and development and having that opportunity to expand your career, but also at the same time doing meaningful work. And that's what we found is important to the candidates that we've really engaged with and that are, being hired into Sodexo and finding great opportunity.
Yeah. And I'm assuming, the ROI of all this extra effort, right, is worth it to you guys. Can you just talk briefly on how you look at that ROI? I mean, what do you track, or if anything?
Absolutely. So there's a few layers. So, number one, we're looking at visits to our career sites. We're looking at impressions that we're getting. We're looking at sessions on the career site. So how long do they stay? How many visits? We track that over months and years and year over year at the same month. We look at a lot of those type of things. We look at engagement through our social. Are we getting more followers? Are people liking us? Are they sharing things? And then we start to dial down into our, really into our ATS, and, kind of the golden measurement for us is, are these candidates getting forwarded to a hiring manager? At the end of the day, are we getting people in? Are they getting on what we call, candidate, a slate for a hiring manager? Are they quality? Are we bringing in people in that not only are they, we're getting all this great exposure online, but are they coming into our jobs and applying? And a recruiter feels strongly enough about that candidate from their phone screen, their initial resume review, and that they've said, yeah, this is someone that I need to forward to a hiring manager. That's kind of no matter what the source is, that to us, that's the real benchmark of quality.
Yeah. Has there been one particular social channel that's been most effective for you guys?
I think right now the main one is LinkedIn, obviously. We find that a lot of our candidates are really engaged on LinkedIn. And it's interesting when I talk to my colleagues that say hire software engineers, or some of the groups where they're just really being bombarded with in-mails and things like that. We're lucky with our candidate pool that they're not as bombarded, and they will respond. But we are, we use LinkedIn to kind of identify, to share stuff. We see a lot of people engage with us on LinkedIn. But it's also more of an identification tool. We leverage some other tools to help us find email addresses, to get other contact information, because certainly we do engage a lot on LinkedIn, but our most successful team members are engaging with candidates on multiple layers, whether that's texting, whether that's email, phone. You've got to hit them in a number of different areas and find that candidate where they're at in terms of their preferred communication style. How
coordinated are you guys in terms of your talent acquisition team as far as content and social media? Do you use a tool for that? Do you send out an email saying, hey, please share this today? Or
we use a tool that is really nice. We use a tool called Quesocial. Quesocial has where you can create groups and teams within the tool. It's kind of got gamification where there's points recruiters and different levels they can get by the type of content they share. And it's not just sharing it through Q. It connects your LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter to the Quesocial tool. And, so if you reshare something on Twitter, you retweet it, or you engage with, other members of that are also on Quesocial, it does track that, and you can get some points for that. So, but that is, a recruiter gets in their inbox content that they can just either through a text or through an email, they can just click on a link and say what social media they want to share it on. And so, you have a team of thought, leaders in terms of branding that are working with the teams in determining what content we need to develop, and, how does that tie in with our recruitment and attraction strategies. But then they are pushing that out to the teams, who are then, sharing it, who can share it through Quesocial.
Gotcha. All right, well, that's a good segue to my next question, which is your HR tech stack. So I wonder if you could just kind of walk us through, your ATS, your HRIS systems, things like that. What do you guys use?
You bet. So I kind of think of it as bottom of the funnel is our applicant tracking system, which is icims. We joined icims when we started working with them years ago. They were kind of new to the scene. I really liked that they were a company founded by people who largely were coming from a recruiting perspective. Some of them were recruiters themselves. And we've had a great journey. We still use icims. We really like them as an applicant tracking system. A lot of people I hear and my colleagues say they don't like their ATS. We love our ATS. icims is a great ATS. And when you start to go up in the funnel, we about 5 years ago, we joined a partnership with Avature for a CRM. And we use Avature for all of our recruiters to house all the candidates they're finding. We have an integration where we also move any of our candidates from icims into Avature, so recruiters can use Avature as a tool to manage relationships, and to court candidates, and to manage their pipelines.
Give me an example of that,
Avature
Scott. Give me a typical example of that. How do you use Avature to kind of nurture a client?
You bet. So it's a lot of our pipelining and a lot of our focus is on kind of where the sales is going, and we also, our recruiters are very embedded with the teams they support, so they might get a heads up and say, hey, we might get this new contract, or this person's going to be promoted and move over here, or, this person's retiring, or, we're concerned this person might leave. And so the recruiters have that knowledge, and they're saying, okay, so they generally have, like a pipeline folder. They might have one big pipeline folder for their area. They might have a few by discipline or job title. But as they're meeting candidates, whether it's an internal employee who's trying to get promoted and really wants a new opportunity, whether it's someone who applied for a job in icims and they weren't right for that one, but they might be good in the future, or it's someone that we call net new. We found them, they'd never heard of us, and we brought them into the CRM. Those, we use a combination of tags in Avature and the pipeline job folders that we've created. We have workflows depending on how a recruiter wants to use it. We have real basic ones for pipelining that someone who is just going to kind of be in there and wants to really quickly kind of put them in some basic steps, to very complicated workflows that our sourcing team uses in Avature to really court and nurture candidates. But, we, in our industry, once you start to get that pipeline of candidates, you're kind of recruiting from the same company, and there's a big ecosystem of talent. They might be a sous chef at one of our competitors, and then they might move and become an executive chef at another competitor, or they might come to work for us for a while, leave, and then come back. But that CRM is really how we're kind of keeping track of all those people and where they're moving in their career. And maybe we found a LinkedIn profile that they've gotten some new certification, and so we import that into Avature and say, oh, wow, we've been working with this person for on and off for the last few years, and they're no longer a sous chef, they're an executive chef, and now they're at our main competitor. And so that's obviously going to make them more attractive for different types of jobs. So it really is there's that. So that's kind of from the pipelining. We also use Avature for recruit marketing. We send monthly blog updates out. We send our newsletter out. We might have some and then we've segmented that by discipline. So, we will not send someone who is interested in facilities management and construction, a blog about chefs. We're going to send them, updates and newsletters and things that are about what we're doing in our technical fields and facilities and energy and construction. And so we've really used that tool to not only a place for recruiters to build relationships, but for us to have, an ongoing way to keep them warm, to keep them interested, to keep them engaged with us just by sharing what's going on at Sodexo and what we're doing in the markets that we work in.
Yeah.
So that's Avature. I'll share that we have seen where we bring in, our sourcing team will bring in a net new candidate in an emerging field, like we're really growing in healthcare technology management. And we've really we're specifically imaging engineers, are people that work on MRI machines, PET and CT scanners, and they're a really difficult skill set to recruit and to find. We've brought in people that haven't heard of Sodexo, that we just got their LinkedIn and we found their email, put them in Avature, and through all attempts at the time tried to get them to talk to us, they wouldn't. And then we've seen 6 months later, they will start clicking on our newsletters about what we're doing in the space and our blog updates, and all of a sudden they're applying. And so we've seen that even if you can't get them in that initial engagement, sometimes it does pay off through that ongoing branding and recruit marketing that we're constantly doing.
I cut you off.
So we have other tools on that I can share, but those are way top of the funnel, as LinkedIn, Entelo, Hiring Solved. We're trying out a new one called Seekout that we're really liking. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're doing to bring stuff into the way top of the funnel, I guess. And then some engagement tools throughout, like Text Recruit, a really awesome tool that we've been using for a couple years now in terms of how you get a hold of a candidate, either initially or throughout the process.
Yeah, how are you using that tool? That's been getting some buzz lately. Tell us a quick story about that.
There's a lady on my team, Heather Thomas. She manages our sourcing team, and that's one of my areas I'm responsible for, is oversight of the sourcing team. And she saw Text Recruit and was like, this is how I need a tool that's enterprise, that I can know in real time if a candidate texts me back. So some of the tools we've looked at, you might hear later, and it just didn't work in a recruiter who's or a sourcer who's really in the weeds, sourcing every day, trying to get candidates. And in texting, you've got to respond like within the minute, or within at least a minute or two. You can't wait till tomorrow. And so what it has a wonderful through Chrome extensions will pick up mobile phones out of Avature and icims. And you can text a candidate. You can text, through the tool with integrations with Avature and icims. You can text a bunch of candidates at once. The candidate thinks they're just getting that one text. But what we really saw is an opportunity is when we're recruiting a chef, they're trying to source a chef or an imaging engineer or someone who's out in the field. We're not going to get them in an email at their computer or an in-mail.
Yeah.
They maybe on a break are going to check their cell phone. And that's how we initially started to use Text Recruit. And it helped. It helped tremendously. They would text back Heather and she'd be like, yeah, I can talk in 15 minutes. Let's just connect and I'll tell you what we're thinking. And they were much more willing to do that through a text than they were through other means. And as time went on, we started to use Text Recruit to also help us to get a hold of people just to schedule an interview, people who were active and applying to us, or, give them an update of what's going on in the process. And I think we're bringing it even beyond. They've got a chat bot that is kind of some AI that helps with initial screening and scheduling of interviews. We're looking at that for some of our frontline recruitment. So we've kind of had a number of layers that we're working with Text Recruit.
Okay. Is that your kind of favorite tool of the year you brought on?
Well, that was last year. This year is hiring solved.
Okay.
So we still love Text Recruit. Hiring solved. So I don't know if you recall a blog that came out I think it was last year when they had the Grandmaster Sourcer competition with SourceCon.
Yeah.
And it was one of the first years they kind of said, okay, let's have a robot compete against our Grandmasters. And the robot didn't win, but the robot came in third place. And the thing that was interesting about the robot is the person who won the Grandmaster Sourcer competition, it took him probably 25 hours to do all the research, but the robot did it in 3 seconds. Got the same result almost.
Right.
So the people who were kind of behind that robot is Hiring Solved. And we started talking with them about, we've been working with on and off and trying out some of their products for a while, but they have a really, really good kind of using artificial intelligence and machine learning to help you identify talent. They can integrate with CRMs and ATS, so you can search not only out on the open web, but within your own CRM or ATS. We're working on integrating it with Avature, but we're still in that kind of technology project management, just trying to get that done. But we have been using it out on the open web. And you have to teach it a little bit. You have to kind of say, if it brings back your own employees who you're saying, no, I'm not looking for my own employees, you have to say, yes, that's an acceptable candidate if that's the type of person you're looking for. So it learns what you're looking for. But if you spend probably 15, 20 minutes kind of just making sure and get it dialed in on what you're looking for, it's saving us time on the candidate identification. I'm talking hours and weeks of search time. That's kind of one of my stories I wanted to share about. I have a great success story from that too that I
love to hear
share. So one of our most technical areas is an area we call asset management, and we call it the asset management framework. And part of this is the team of licensed professional engineers. It's really our technical consultants who help solve those most challenging problems out in the business. They help us sell new business. They're really the thought leaders for the company and facilities management and the engineering side of our business. And we needed a new leader for that. And we were struggling kind of identifying people who aligned with what we were looking for. And it was kind of new to us because not many companies do it at the level of what we were looking to. And the other challenge is we needed someone who had good leadership, management skills. And so we noticed a lot of our competitors promote people, but they promote them for their technical skills and may not have the leadership. So we had this kind of really almost a purple squirrel that we were looking for. And we were using Hiring Solved, and we spent a little bit of time to train it. But what we found is it the machine learning not only was really good at finding people we were looking for, but it actually was really good at identifying the synonyms and the different ways that other people might describe what we're calling asset management framework. It was finding other ways that companies describe that it taught us. It taught us that you're saying this, and this is also what other people are calling it, because it's searching thousands upon thousands of profiles in a matter of seconds and coming back to you with what it's finding. Mm-hmm. So what we found was, could we have found that out on our own? Yes, it would have taken us 2 weeks, a month. I don't know how long it would have taken. It would have taken us a long time over searches and searches of a human going and doing those searches. But what happened was that it started bringing back these people with backgrounds that were not necessarily what we would call it, but we were starting to see that, oh, I see why it's bringing these back. Other companies are calling it this, and we never would have found out what they were calling it. Oh. So then we started to change our searches a little bit based on what AI, and we found a really phenomenal candidate who's working for us today in that VP of Asset Management Framework position. So that's kind of a long-winded way to share how it's helping us, but it's just so fast. It can do those searches and learn how the market is describing a skill set much quicker than we could. So we're kind of using it. I don't like to think of it as artificial intelligence, but I think it's like Tom Friedman in one of his new books, Thank You for Being Late. He's the guy that wrote The World is Flat. Yep. He calls it intelligent assistance. So, our sourcer is the expert, the person doing the work, and they've got this intelligent assistant, and hiring Saul kind of speeding up some of that lead generation work that would have taken us a lot longer to do.
It's really interesting, Scott. The kind of goes to point out too that you have to know your keywords too, right? When you're sourcing online.
You do, but the cool thing is this taught us new keywords. Yeah, that was the whole thing, and that we wouldn't. And our team is really good about trying to identify synonyms and other things other companies might call them. But this was a new space for us. Yep. And we didn't have that luxury to learn that over a couple of years of recruiting. We had to learn it within a matter of minutes.
What was the title? What was the synonym?
It was like systems engineering, or it was they would it was engineering services, or some of them were kind of more, we wouldn't have thought of it that way, mm-hmm. because a lot of our competitors are more facilities management. They don't necessarily call it engineering, or they don't call it systems. We would have thought of systems engineering or something like that more of like a software term. And this is not software. It's more like mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, stuff like that, and really more in a built environment within a building or a manufacturing plant. It was those type of things that it started to bring back for us versus what we would have said. We would have said facilities engineering. We would have said asset management framework. We would have said ISO 55000, which is kind of the standard for this area. We would not have said systems engineering, or that was kind of one of the main ones that came back.
Gotcha. That's been great. I appreciate all these details, Scott. I think it's important for other recruiters out there to hear sort of real world stories. So I appreciate all the details you've given us today and all the tools you mentioned. Just a few more questions for you as we kind of wrap this up. Being a big user of technology tools to recruit, is there a tool out there that you wish existed that does not today?
Absolutely. So I think of kind of the key challenges that we have in recruiting, and one of them is engagement. Really, how do you those people that are really good at engaging candidates are winning in talent. And the other part of that, and it's always, recruiting is always the best recruiters are the recruiters that are good at relationships, really good at managing relationships, whether that's with their hiring partner or the candidate pool. And you also have more and more demand from our business partners to find intangibles, leadership, potential, things like that. So what we're trying to do is, you're trying to find that off of a LinkedIn profile. You're trying to find the best way to engage a candidate when you just might know that they are an engineer at one of our competitors. So what I would love is a tool, and I've seen bits and pieces of it, where they are able to bring together a lot of those profiles But I don't want it as like a separate tool. So I don't want to have Entelo and then I have avature.
Mm-hmm.
I want our CRM to do what Entelo or what some of these like Talent Bin or, Engage or some of these tools are doing, where they're out there and they're finding multiple profiles across a candidate. Some of them just do that, like Entelo. I think that's kind of their main thing. But then when you work with the tool like Engage, they're looking at what's going on in that company, what's happening if it's our competitor and their CEO's getting bad rankings and their market and their earnings report is down, and people are, kind of saying bad things about them on Glassdoor, and then then pointing out the candidates that work there, and then we're getting their profiles across multiple things. I want an easy way to find all of that and be able to bring that into our CRM very efficiently, because that's where we manage those relationships. And that would help me then to say, okay, I noticed this person's writing a blog about sustainability and they work at our key competitor whose earnings just did not do well, and their CEO and there's some upheaval going on there, and something that can help me to connect all those dots. So I have a good compelling offer to bring to that candidate, and I know the right time to reach out to that candidate. So I'm seeing a lot of tools that one does one thing, another does the other thing, and another does another. And my thought is we're doing a lot of investment as an industry in artificial intelligence and machine learning. It seems like there could be something that would bring these things together, or that could be part of a CRM that would do that. And it would enable that recruiter to have a lot more information to know who to target and how to target them and when to target them.
That's interesting. It's almost like a candidate persona profile or intelligence about that candidate.
I kind of think like a sales executive who really wants to sell a company, like in business to business. They're doing all that research to identify what are the trends. How would I get in the door? How would I sell our solution? And when I kind of think like when you're trying to approach some of our really top professional candidates, they're making a major decision about their career, but there are trends that are happening that might make them more interested, and it might make it a more meaningful opportunity for them if we knew kind of what's going on in their world just a little bit better.
Good stuff, Scott. Hey, so here's a question I hear a lot from some HR tech people out there. How should HR tech vendors approach people like you in talent acquisition as far as selling their product? What are they doing wrong, and what do you think they should be doing right in order to get your business?
One company that I'm really impressed, and I like how they're kind of doing it, is they're really kind of embedding and getting, they're just kind of having a bunch of recruiters try their product out and really listening to that. It's a company called Seekout, and Seekout they basically will search. They search a lot of public profiles. They compete against Entelo when hiring solved. But one of the things that I see a lot of times, a company will come and develop a solution for sourcers or recruiters, and they have kind of one angle. Maybe they're really good at one particular thing that a search they can do, an algorithm they've written, and they kind of build their entire product around that. And what I'm hoping is, well, what are some of the key challenges that recruiters and hiring managers are facing today? And build your product around that. And have that agility and that flexibility in your development cycle to be able to adjust with the market. So right now in Sodexo, one of the biggest challenges that we face is that our markets are changing, and what is valuable to our clients is changing. And it puts a lot of value on our leaders' ability to be good leaders, have exceptional business acumen, but also have that industry discipline experience, where before, if we were a good food company, that was enough. Well, now we've got to be a really good strategic business partner. And the only way you can be a good strategic business partner is if you have people working for you that are the leads at those sites that are good strategic business partners.
Right.
So for us to be able to uncover those intangibles and to identify those things, that's probably one of our biggest challenges. And I see as technology is one of the key ways to help us with that, whether it's like a hiring solve and teaching us those synonyms, or getting us to the candidate quicker and creating an efficiency, or if it's some of these tools that can help us learn more about the market, or if it's assessment tools. It's really, what is the business problem that your core users are facing and their customers are facing, and how can your technology help solve that?
Awesome. Well, Scott, we're running out of time, but I want to thank you for educating us today mainly, and teaching us how you guys do business. I think it helps other recruiters to do their job. So again, appreciate you joining me today, and thank you for all the information you gave us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. It was fun to talk, and appreciate you reaching out to me.
Yeah, no problem. Do you want to tell people where they can connect with you online?
Sure. Absolutely. You can connect. You can follow me on Twitter. It's just Scott in, like Neil Sherman, Scott in Sherman on Twitter, and or on LinkedIn. I definitely encourage, if you want to learn about our new VP of Talent Acquisition and some of the things we're doing at Sodexo, check out our Sodexo Careers blog, and you can access that to sodexo.jobs, or I think it's sodexousacareers.com, and check us out. See what we're doing. We're doing some fun stuff.
Excellent. Well, appreciate it again, Scott, and we'll link to everything in the show notes. That's going to do it for this edition of the RecTech Podcast. Thanks again to our sponsor. Remember to check out jobfairing.com for your next hiring event. You can subscribe to the show via iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and also Stitcher Radio. Hey, if you like the show, leave a review on your channel of choice. I'd love to see your feedback, or mention us on social media with the hashtag RecTech. Hey, follow me on Twitter at Chris Russell, or visit rectechmedia.com, where you can find the audio and links for this show on our blog. Just a reminder, I'm a consultant that helps both HR tech firms and employers get more clients or candidates. Next show, we'll be speaking with Aman Brar, CEO of Canvas, which is a text recruiting tool. That'll be the last show for 2017. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.